Okay, for tonight's homework, we're going to talk about trig ratios. Now, we want to remember um, the acronym SOHCAHTOA. And if you forgot, this kind of helps us remember what's the different relationships between sine, cosine, and tangent, and the opposite and adjacent sides, and so on. So I'm going to write this right here. Sine, that's S, equals opposite over hypotenuse, that's the SO, and then C equals A over H. Cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse, and tangent equals opposite over adjacent, TOA. So that's why we use that. Now for this problem, we're going to use the relationships of SOHCAHTOA, figuring out, deciding what, first way we have to decide which one of these three we're going to use, sine, cosine, or tangent. So what I'm going to do is look at this angle here of 32 degrees, and what's the relationship of the wall? I'm going to call that height x. We're trying to find how high above the ground is the top of the ramp. So I want to know what this length is right here. So I look at the angle here and say this is, well, the triangle, first of all. This little thing in the corner is the right angle. That always points to the hypotenuse. I think of this as an arrow pointing to the hypotenuse. So that's the hypotenuse. And relative to this angle, this side is across from or opposite. So that's opposite. So then I look at my relationships and say, which one uses hypotenuse and opposite? No, there it is. Hypotenuse and opposite is sine. So I write my equation. Sine of 32 degrees equals the opposite. The opposite of 32 degrees is x here in the triangle over the hypotenuse, which is given to me to be 30. So a couple of things I can do. I can say, I'll say the sine of 32, which is sine 32, is 0.5299 equals x over 30. So now I multiply both sides by 30 times 30 times 30. So I'm going to say times 30, and then it gives me the answer of, I get 15.8975 equals x, or rounded off to 15.9, so that would be my answer there. What some people do is at this point, before they do the cosine, they figure out the sine, they'll multiply by 30 here, and then they just go straight to their calculator and put 30 times the sine of 32, and they get the same answer. Okay, the next problem is a little trickier. This one we're looking, tailgate of a truck is 2 feet above the ground. There's my 2. The incline of the ramp used for loading the truck is 11 degrees as shown. Find the nearest tenth of the foot, the length of the ramp. That's x right here. That's the length of the ramp. So I'm going to look at this relationship and say this is the angle. This side, there's my right angle, which means x is the hypotenuse. That's the hypotenuse. And this side here, relative to 11, is a opposite. So again, I'm going to use sine, but it's going to be a little bit trickier. Sine of 11 degrees equals the opposite, which is 2 over x. And this is where it gets a little confusing because I'm trying to figure out what the values are. Now, probably the easiest at this point would be before I figure out what sine, I can figure out sine of 11, but let's wait till the end for that. So what I'm going to do now is to get rid of that x, I'm going to multiply both sides times x and times x here. And what happens is these guys cancel, and I got x times the sine of 11 equals 2. Well, I don't want x times the sine of 11, I just want plain x. So what I'm going to do is divide both sides by sine of 11. And then this right here, these guys are going to cancel. And so I got x equals 2 divided by sine 11. So I go to my calculator, put 2 divided by sine 11, and I get x equals, oh, hold on a second, 2 divided by sine 11 10.48, 10.48, but it says round to the nearest tenth of the foot, so the answer would be x equals 10.5 feet. That would be the answer to that one. So it's a little different when the x is on the bottom. We have a few more steps, but not too much more. And this one here, let's make this a little smaller. How do I do that here? Let me go up here. Let's make that so it fits on the page. There we go. Okay, so for this problem now, we have a little bit of an issue because we got this little extra part here. I'm going to call this length right here x. That's from here to here in part of my triangle. So I'm just going to do the work for this one. This length right here, across from this point here to here, is given to be 95 feet. So now in the relation to the triangle, this side is the 50-degree angle, this is opposite, and this is adjacent. Opposite and adjacent is tangent. So tangent of 50 degrees equals x over 95. So I can, at this point right now, multiply by 95 if I want. And then this is going to cancel. And then 95 here. So then I have 95 times the tan of 50. So 95 tan 50 is 113.2. 113.2 equals x. So this length is rounded to the nearest foot would be 113 equals x. So this length from here to here is 113, but they're not asking for that. They're asking for how far above the ground is the kite. Well, that's 113. It tells us that this length right here is 3 feet. So the answer would be 113 plus 3, which is 116 feet. Okay, and the last problem I want to go over is number 8, and that's a little bit tricky because, again, let's make this a little smaller. We're going to make that in a bit there. Okay. Make it a little bigger than that. Okay, we're asking to find a couple of things, x and y. X is this length right here. Let's do x first. So again, here's 60. 17 is opposite, and x is hypotenuse. So I have sine 60 equals 17 over x. Now that's a tricky problem again because x is on the bottom. So I'd simply say times x here and times x here. So these cancel, and then I still have x times the sine of 60. X sine 60 equals 17. To get rid of that sine 60, I divide both sides by sine 60. And these cancel, so I have x equals 17 divided by sine 60. So x equals, and I go to the calculator and I do 17 divided by sine 60, and I get 19.6. 19.6 doesn't say what the round, so I'll round to the nearest tenth, and that would be the value of x. And we do similar things for y. I'm just going to set it up and then I'll stop. So for y, we're still using 60 degrees. Y is adjacent, and 17 is opposite. Opposite and adjacent is tangent, so I'm going to say tangent of 60 equals 17 over y. And then we do similar to what we did over here. So I'm just going to stop right there. But hopefully that helps you a little bit with the homework.